This is state of emergency, bitches.
My name is Dr. Franklin Ellis, and I am the Assistant Director of Multicultural Student Services, as well as a teaching associate with the Psychology Department here at Coastal Carolina University. And I'd like to go on further and say thank you so much for being here today. I apologize for not being able to make it to the conference, but thank you for coming to this session and taking in the information we have to share. At Coastal Carolina University, as we pushed for more inclusion and diversity on our campus, we really think, feel, and believe that we wanted a space when students stepped on this campus, they had room to be all of who they are and all of their identities. And one way we wanted to do that was to ensure that they had a safer space for students of LGBTQIA plus identity. And this work wasn't started by myself, it was actually started by my predecessor, Jamie Peperato, who is of JP Higher Ed and JP Webinars, an excellent social justice worker, warrior who really lives and breathes this work. Well, when I first got to Coastal, the legwork had already been done by Jamie. And so when I was approached by students, as well as Dr. Debbie Connor, who is our Vice President of Campus Life and Student Engagement here at Coastal Carolina University, I felt that it was really a need. And so I stood behind it, and we thought of ways, how can we make this work for our students? Because if this is what they're asking for, and this is what they have a need for, then we should be able to provide the service. In order to answer that, I have to go back to how we came up with the name of R.I.S E, which stands for Residence in Solidarity for Equality. And the name actually came from a dear friend of mine, R.I.S.E. Stevenson, who is the Director of Multicultural Student Affairs at Ohio Wesleyan University. And with hearing equality or equitability, whichever one you'd like to interchange it with, I felt that the focus should be directed towards our LGBTQIA plus students. But how do we make it bigger than that and circumvent a system that was already giving resistance to having this type of housing? So what I did was look at doing it from a social justice lens. So if we looked at it from an intersectional lens that created empathy and that deconstructed systems of power, privilege, and oppression, then what we could do is frame the special interest housing as social justice, but also providing a safer space for our LGBTQIA plus students. So in coming up with the activities and programs, I looked at things that would dissect all of these systems of power, privilege, oppression, looked at isms and how they were developed, also looked at how do we intersect people's identities to give them further understanding. So that's how I came up with all of the activities that we do. I want to make sure that they hit on all of those points, as well as show our students how to not just leverage diversity, but also all of their differences, and how do they become all of themselves and bring all of themselves to the table, and not just sit at the table, but have a place at the table, have a setting at the table, as well as food to eat. I think what worked really well was hitting it from a social justice angle and introducing intersectionality into all of the work that we do and into creating this safe space or safer space and showing them how to have an inclusive society. I think another thing that worked really well was all of the interactive learning that we did with them. So all of the activities that came together, that was great. Something that didn't work really well was whenever we just had dialogue. So the nights where we just watched a documentary or we just came in and wanted to talk, the dialogue was difficult. Now, it was very rich when it was paired with the activities because they were enthusiastic about it, but I think with just the movies or documentaries and talking, it was more like too close to being in class. I think another thing that didn't work well, we were asked before we started it, was to make sure, and how could we ensure that we didn't take this group and isolate them from the community, but had to find a way to make them educate their community. So we introduced the idea of having them do, at the end of each semester, a large-scale program to show what they have learned to the community as a whole. At the end of the first semester, what they did was an ice cream social that had a social justice theme to it. So depending on your identities, decided the type of ice cream you got, decided the type of toppings you got or what you didn't get, and things of that nature. And then we discussed with students afterwards. But I think the difficult part of that was we're asking students who don't do program to program. So that was kind of difficult, and the programming aspect of it was never put in the curriculum when we developed it. So that's one thing that I would definitely change. And what would I like to add? For next year, what I really love to add is doing more outings, like taking our students to DC or to Georgia and things of that nature to show them different places, and maybe doing some service work as well. I think, feel, and believe it is a powerful impact. It's kind of like a pebble in a pond. When you drop the pebble, there's a small ripple that ripples out, and I believe that's what these communities will do. We have all these small pebbles that we throw out into the world, and those small pebbles are going to create small ripples, which are going to create larger ripples, and so they are then going to affect everyone around them, yes? And by doing so, what we really come to do is have an inclusive society. Again, as I said in the beginning, a place where everyone has room to be, right? Disagreement is not disapproval, and what we will learn is we can disagree with each other, and we may not like what people say or what they do. However, I do not have to condemn you for the person that you are. And when we finally come to that, what we get is a society where people can freely exist for who they are without judgment from others. So I think that is how it will impact not just this campus, not just housing, but the world.
Peace.